What's up, y'all? Dev, Mtg, magic stuff. The whole spiel, I'm sure you've got it committed to memory, but I want to go ahead and jump into it because you may have already noticed that, hey, Dev's in the middle of the couch today. That's a little different. Yeah, it's a very special video, TM, today. Because we've already got the entire Zendikar Rising set spoiler. The whole set is out, and we've even had a couple of days now to discuss strategy, decks, individual cards, and how they affect standard and all that. So usually I'd be devoting this time to like top 10 sleepers or top 25 cards or even deck techs and stuff at this point in the season. But I feel like in some ways, in a lot of ways really, this rotation and in turn, because of that, this set are uniquely important. And I want to kind of take some time today to go through and sort of outline my thoughts on why I think this set is as important as I think it is. Whether Wizards knows or acknowledges it, I think that this is, not to be hyperbolic, but this is one of the more important sets in the history of the game. And I know that sounds like kind of crazy to those of us who have been here for a while. We lived through Fallen Empires, we lived through Chronicles, and a bunch of other times where people said like Magic is going to die. And it never has, right? 20 years after Chronicles, Magic is still going. And we're talking about abolishing the reserve list, which is a whole other conversation that I won't get into too much today. But again, I want to mostly talk about Zendikar Rising, and it's not its effect on Standard, but the effects that I think it needs to have on formats like Standard and Historic in order to be considered a success. And I think that being considered a success is a very, very important thing for this set and Wizards of the Coast writ large right now. And today we're going to go over why. Now, in a sort of Dickensian plot twist here, I think that Wizards has to learn lessons from the past and the present and the future in order to really knock this set out of the park. And I know that's a bit cryptic, but I'll get to what I'm talking about directly. First of all, the past. What do I mean by learn lessons from the past? I'll start here because not only do I want to go chronologically, past, present, future, but also because I think there's a hierarchy of importance to these different elements. And the past is probably the least important one, but at the same time, I do think it's important altogether that Wizards nail the flavor of this set. And the reason I'm calling this past is because the first time we went to Zendikar, a lot of people loved the setting of Zendikar, the feeling of adventure, the landfall mechanic. There were a lot of really cool things about the original Zendikar that a lot of people were then disappointed by when we revisited Zendikar last time. Whether there were just too many Eldrazi, whether the Eldrazi were too overpowered, or whether, on the other hand, some people said that these sets were boring, right? Remember when Oath of the Gatewatch came out? Just a boring set. That was the kind of the major sentiment within the community at large, was that it was kind of a boring set without that many powerful cards, and it didn't really do much for Standard. And Wizards really needs to avoid that. One of the worst things that can happen is people just being disinterested in this set. And it's already happening online. I've seen a lot of people, and I'll probably see a lot of people in the comment section of this video, saying this set's not impressive, and it doesn't look powerful to them, and they don't like it, and it's just garbage and all that. I've seen these takes a bunch. And although I'm not going to discuss too much in this video, whether or not Wizards has hit the marks, that it needs to hit, because we don't really know yet. We really don't know yet because the set's not out. We're not playing with it. It's not Standard Historic with these cards in our hands. Not just yet. So we can't say for sure what the answers to any of these questions are. The main point of this video is to pose the questions in the first place. And again, I think that it's of less importance than my other points I want to make. But it is important that Wizards please people that like the Zendikar setting. They get back to the adventure, feel of it, and they capture that properly. They do the right things with landfall, which I think they by and large have in this set. And that it's a good limited environment. There's a lot that they need to learn from their mistakes the last time we went to Zendikar to, again, make sure that player experience is enhanced as much as possible with this release, and that the people who love Zendikar as a setting, which there are plenty of, can get back to the Zendikar that they know and love. So to try to put like a finer point on this and just make this point a little bit more succinct, the set needs to be fun. It needs to be more fun than the last time we went to Zendikar, which shouldn't be too hard, but you've got a lot of different subsects of the community to please and get back within your good graces. In just this one point, right? Again, the last time we went to Zendikar, a lot of people were disappointed from the more obscure Vorthoses and, people who really care about the flavor of a set, all the way up to, the people who mostly grind out drafts and sealed and stuff like that, who mostly experience the flavor of a set through the limited environment. Altogether, the set needs to be fun to look at, it needs to be fun to indulge in the flavor of, and it needs to be fun, above all else, to play in limited. We had a really clunky limited environment last time that was, mostly dominated by Eldrazi and whatnot, even in limited. That was not a fun environment to play. And again, altogether, the set was just looked at as boring, ho-hum, not anywhere near, the same excitement and adventure that we felt when we went to Zendikar the first time. So again, from the Vorthoses to the draft grinders, there's a lot of people that Wizards sort of upset the last time we went to Zendikar, and they need to make it right this time. Hey, we're in part 2 now, and I actually think that, again, the present and the future, these grievances are way more important for Wizards to nail than the past, right? Again, I think that the past is very important. Obviously, the set needs to be fun if we're going to consider it a good set. Right? I think a lot of that goes without saying. But when put in the context of what happened last time we were in Zendikar, I think it's important that Wizards kind of bring the mood in the room back up in terms of flavor. But again, that's the past. Let's talk about the present for now. And the present is very, very important. Because I don't think, 25 years of playing Magic under my belt, I don't know that I've ever seen this much negativity about a standard environment. And that's crazy considering the last few standard environments we were in. I just saw somebody say, like, I long for the days of Siege Rhino Abzan. And that's insane when you think about it. Because when Siege Rhino Abzan was a thing, everyone was sick of it. Everyone hated that deck, right? The level of hatred for how, I hate to say it, but unfun standard is perceived by a lot of players has never been this high. Just today, this morning as I record this video, Ali Aintrazi, perennial pro Ali Aintrazi, wrote this on Twitter. And I agree with a lot of this sentiment. And if you notice, perennial Magic streamer Jeff Hoogland, and very popular, person in the Magic community, has effectively agreed with this. And if you look at this Twitter thread, there's a lot of people, Brad Nelson, and a ton of other pros and popular Twitch streamers, who are effectively agreeing with this sentiment. It is relatively unfun to play standard right now, and there's a lot of cards that are just super busted. They take over the game by themselves. If you went through this point by point, you can almost tell exactly what cards he's talking about. And again, I think that his opinion is the majority opinion for a lot of Magic players. Maybe not all of you, Again, I'm labeled an apologist a lot for standard and for Wizards and all that. And I have been one of the more positive people about the standard environment online, I think, through all of this. I have not cracked yet. And I've had a lot of people say, just give us your true thoughts on standard. Just don't hold back. And honestly, my true thoughts on standard is it's not like a broken format. Like it's mostly fine. There's like 6 decks in standard you can play right now. That's good. That's a lot of decks in context. I come from standard environments 10 years ago where there were literally 2 decks. 2 decks for like a whole year. So like, I hate to sound like an old man, but like, you guys have it pretty good. In the last few years of standard that a lot of people have been like vocal about have actually been more diverse standards than standards that people didn't complain about as much in the past. I don't know why. But that's the way of the world now. A lot of that has to do with social media. We didn't have Facebook and Twitter back in the day, and I think a lot more people would have complained about certain standard metas. And people did back in the day too. Like people complained about the Necropotence meta in 1996. Necro Summer or Necro Winters. Necro Summer is what it was. And was that right? Yeah, it was Necro Summer combo Winter, right? Those are, again, 2 periods of Magic history that people were very, very vocal about. And this is long before the advent of social media. So again, we've had other periods in Magic history where people have been very vocal about their complaints and their dissent with standard Magic. So this is in no way different from those times in some ways, but in other ways it is. In other ways it is, right? Because we've got, I think, more people playing Magic than ever right now. I think you can safely say that. I know that paper Magic has flagged a bit, mostly because of the way of the world now, what world we're living in. But at the same time, we've got Arena now, and many Magic the Gathering players, to steal a line from the professor, play Arena, and we've just got it on Mac. We're going to get it on mobile before too long, and then I really think it'll be a safe bet once we get Arena on mobile, that there will be more Magic the Gathering players than there have ever been. We had a lot of complaints during Fallen Empires and Chronicles. There are people that were very vocal in the community about hating some of these decisions and these sets and all that. But I mean, what did we have, like 14 Magic players back then? That's a joke. That's a joke. I mean, but one way, the point I'm trying to make, compared to the amount of Magic players that we've had in the past when the sky was falling, we've got so many more now, and that actually might make a difference in whether or not the sky falls. Back in the day, we had 20,000 people holding this thing up. Now there's 20 million people holding this thing up. And I know it's Wizards' estimate. A lot of people take umbrage with that stat, but I'm using their estimate. Like 20 million people holding this game up now. That means that Wizards can lose more people and still keep their game, yes, but it also means that if you, piss off a huge segment of your player base, then a lot more people will end up leaving the game at one time. So I think that Wizards can, in some ways, it's arguable that Wizards can afford to screw up less now than any point in their past, especially considering, and this is still in the present, something else that needs to be addressed, especially considering that the perception, whether or not this is reality, that's on you, but honestly, but there's a perception that they've been screwing up a lot lately. Whether it's mostly in balancing issues, or whether it's in just straight up corporate greed. A lot of people are, holding Wizards' feet to the fire for all the different products they release, and what products are obviously meant for whales, and what are the ethics of that, right? All that. Wizards has generated some bad will, but mostly, for the purposes of this video, we're talking about the different ways that they've screwed up the balance issues in their game. And I don't think it can be argued that they have, right? Whether or not you think it's okay that there have been a ton of bannings. And I do. I actually think there's something to be said about these bannings in a positive light. Multiple things you could say in a positive light about these bannings. It ultimately leads to the perception that Wizards screwed up balance. And they did. I think that that's not a perception thing. They did screw up balance in a couple of sets. But they've taken, I think, the proper steps to attempt to fix that. They didn't ban Nissa. They didn't ban Euro. We'll talk about Euro a little bit later. We'll get there, trust me, when we get to the future part of this video. But, they have aggressively banned where they would not do that in the past. They never took like a hardline stance against aggressive bannings, but I think it was obvious in the past that they weren't going to do anything unless something got really, really out of hand. Honestly, I think that the Wizards of the past, right, if you'd have told them, hey, we need to ban cards from Wilderness Reclamation, we need to ban cards from the Cat Combo, we need to ban cards from Ramp, and we need to ban cards from the Teferi deck, Wizards probably would have said, wait, there's 4 popular decks in Standard? We're not banning anything. That's 4 popular decks. That's a diverse Standard. So Wizards has come a long way in their stance on banning things. And I think, again, this is where this is going to get slightly rambly, but I made this point on stream the other night, but I really want to make this point on YouTube so people will see it. A couple of years ago, Wizards decided they were going to go to every 6 months they were going to do a rotation. And a lot of people were really upset about that, myself included. I felt like every 6-month rotation was a terrible idea. Really bad idea. So very quickly, they went back to once-a-year rotation. Well, since they've done that, since they've made the decision to go back to once-a-year rotation, they've been far more aggressive with their bans. So it's like we get these little mini standards, these mini rotations every few months when they ban stuff. And I actually think that's great. Just as someone that enjoys making decks, especially as a content creator, I know I have that unique slanted vision on it. But just as someone who enjoys making decks, someone who enjoys jumping into a new standard every now and again, I've really liked that they ban stuff as aggressively as they have been. I think the bans have, by and large, been good for the health of the game. And I know that not everyone agrees with that. Again, I'm not here to argue that point. My opinion is largely they've been good for the health of the game, especially Standard. And Historic, sure, all the bans have been good for the game altogether. But again, all these bans lead to the public perception that Wizards screwed up a lot and that there were balance issues, which again, there objectively were. So, Wizards has to get this set right. Wizards has to learn from the mistakes of the present, right? I think you could make the point that right now the bannings are still fresh in everyone's mind. These standards that were ruled by Nissa and Hydroid Krasis Teferi Time Raveler, Euro, Ugin. These standards are still very fresh in everyone's mind, and everyone's going to take, a lot of that into the next format, that baggage, right? We're still going to have Euro. We're still going to have Ugin. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in the next section, but especially when it comes to Euro, I think that people are a little skittish that nothing from this set is going to usurp the power level of some of the stuff that we have in Standard right now. And again, that's going to mostly be the thrust of my last section of this video, but, it kind of bleeds from the present into the future a bit. I can talk about it in both parts. Altogether, I guess the point that I'm trying to make, poorly, is that obviously in the present day, really in the last 6 months, there's been a lot of decisions that Wizards have made, whether releasing certain cards or banning other cards, that have led to a lot of bad will, I think, from the public, and a lot of people who have already left the game. I can't tell you how many times I've seen the comment, whether on Twitter, they responded to somebody else, or they reply to my own videos. People saying, like, I'm not playing Standard. I'm not playing Standard for the next 6 months. Until rotation, I'm not playing Standard. And I think the implication there, whether they say it or not, too, is that they will play some Standard after the rotation. And if that Standard isn't good, they'll leave again. Lots of people, I think, have left Standard for Historic. Wizards is lucky that they have that format. Or smart that they implemented that format. So people can leave Standard, still have things to play on Arena. But one way or the other, I think people deciding they're going to leave Standard is really bad for the health of your game overall, and I don't think that's debatable. So Wizards has to really buckle down and learn that you can't just print, extremely powerful cards and then ban them willy-nilly, because some people are going to like the bans, some people are going to hate the bans. Some people are going to like the powerful cards, some people are going to hate the powerful cards. But either way, you're generating like 50% bad will with the community. And the people that do like the broken cards and do like the bans, I don't think advocate for these decisions enough to sort of offset the people who hate these decisions and thus poison the well on social media with takes on those decisions. So, if you know what I'm trying to say here. Either way, this part was probably poorly worded. But you know what I'm saying, The bans have really, really done a lot to a lot of people's public perceptions. A lot of people have already quit Standard because of sets like War of the Spark that were entirely broken. Sets like Throne of Eldraine that had 4 cards from it banned, right? A lot of people have just decided that they're not going to play this game anymore, right? Or at least not play Standard. But, conversely, you've got people who already hate Zendikar Rising because it's not very powerful. Right? Whereas I think Zendikar Rising, there's a lot of really good cards in it. But it does look like a downshift in overall power level, which is something that Magic needs right now. I think Standard Magic needs a downshift in power level. I think it's a good thing, but not everyone reads it that way. So, now you're stuck in the catch-22, the Abraham Lincoln situation. You can't please all of the people all of the time. But I think you have to please as many people as possible in order, again, for public perception to be that this set was a success. And I think it's incredibly important that the public perception says this set was good. But now we go to the future. And what do I mean by the future? I mean this Standard environment we're about to be in. We're only going a week into the future to talk about the future. But we're also talking about pretty much every month leading up to Kaldheim. Which is this entire season. It will be after Christmas that we even get Kaldheim spoilers. That's longer than you think. So we're stuck with Rise of Zendikar and its impact on this environment for a good long time. The entire final quarter of the year, which is a lot. I'm always trying to tell people that a month is longer than you think it is. 2 months is longer than you think it is. Especially in the current day and age where it used to be that I played Magic 6 hours a week, right? I would play 4 hours at F&M, 6 hours if I'm winning, right? I would also play a little bit with my friends here and there on the weekends or something. I'd play 8-10 hours of Magic a week, max. Now I play 6 hours of Magic a day on Arena, right? And that means a month seems so much longer than it used to. So again, this set, we're going to be effectively stuck with it for a while. It needs to impact Standard in the proper ways, which mostly means that this set has to present options, answers, strategies against some of the cards that we already know are going to be good. Oppressively good, for that matter. If you go on the r/spikes subreddit, the competitive Magic subreddit right now, almost every post is filled with people saying that Euro, we're in Euro standard. The best card from Zendikar Rising is Euro. And this is a spicy, sarcastic, sardonic, cynical take. But let's be honest. This is one of the more controversial things I think I'll say in this video. But like, that feels like a lot of Magic players right now. But that's not their fault, right? I think that the reason that, by and large, the attitude in the community feels so cynical right now is mostly Wizards' fault for all the things I've already outlined in this video. And if people want to look towards the future and decide that Euro, Ugin, Adventures, Mono Red are going to be the best decks in this next format, and that Zendikar Rising isn't going to, affect this format whatsoever, I'm a little bit afraid that that's going to turn into a self-fulfilling prophecy. There are powerful cards from this set, and I think that there are, whole new decks from this set that look pretty good to me. But that said, if a Euro deck, if a Ugin ramp deck, or even a mono red deck shows up in the top 4 of the first big tournament of the season, then suddenly I feel like a lot of players are going to feel vindicated in their idea that this set is terrible, didn't do enough for standard, we're just in a Euro standard now. So Wizards, again, we've seen the entire set, but we don't know for a fact. No one can see the future for real. No one can say definitively that this set won't do enough to keep Euro in check, or keep Ugin in check, or keep Adventures in check. It could. It very well could. There could be strategies we don't see yet. It could take 2 weeks before someone cracks the code or whatever. This is very common after rotation. As a matter of fact, after rotation, the fastest deck often wins, so I wouldn't be surprised if Mono Red, with most of its key organs intact, is one of the best decks in the format. Also, we're going to be trying to figure out the way to use the slots correctly in any decks that mostly focus on Zendikar Rising pieces. Whereas, Team Adventures, we know how that deck is built. There's no brewing, there's no finagling cards and figuring out what the exact right build is. We know how to build Team Adventures at this point. So that's just a decided upon build. And I expect those builds to be very important and popular at the beginning of the format. But again, I think that might lead to the public perception that this set was not successful, because it just didn't have a big enough impact on standard. That said, if we had a Throne of Eldraine on our hands, and the set massively impacted standard on day 1, people would be upset about that. So, which one is better? I'm not sure. Do we just wait another year until Euro and Ugin are gone? I think that would be terrible for the game. So, does the Wizards need to continue to be aggressive with bans? Do they need to ban Euro? Do they need to ban Ugin? Do they need to ban Lucky Clover or something? I don't know. I don't think we're there yet. And anyone advocating for bans right now, I just don't think it's the best position, because, again, we don't know what this format is. Give it a month. Give it 3 weeks. And then see if we can talk about banning certain cards. But one way or the other, I think that one of my biggest worries, and why I think the future is the most important thing in terms of how this set will be perceived, is because, again, the future, when I say the future, I mean this set has to be able to have decks and strategies that arise from it that are capable of dealing with these incredibly powerful cards that will continue to be powerful in the future. And no, I don't want a new set that comes out to just invalidate every set before it. And I think that no one's really advocating for that, but that's how it sounds some of the time. In terms of balance and how good a set should be, I actually think Wizards has hit a pretty good mark with this set. The only issue is that they've released sets with incredibly powerful cards in them just prior to this one. So, Ugin, probably still a problem. Euro, probably still an issue. Adventures, probably still an issue. Mono Red, it's probably still an issue. But it's, how big of an issue they are, and whether or not we can get some real decks from Zendikar Rising with lots of Zendikar Rising cards to place well in tournaments. If we do, then maybe people won't say, oh, this and that needs to be banned. Oh, I'm never playing Standard again, or whatever. But I think that one way or the other, it's very likely that those things are going to happen. I just really hope that they don't, because I think a lot of players have already made up their minds that this is a Euro format. This is an Ugin format. And there's nothing that could be done about that. And I think a lot of people had their minds made up about that before we even saw a single card from Zendikar Rising. I mean, I don't know what Wizards is supposed to do about that. Maybe not print those cards in the first place, or print good answers to them in the first place. But again, I'm not trying to blame people who already have that mindset, because Wizards gave them that mindset, right? Sometimes, I mean, there are some bad actors online, especially here on YouTube, who I think like some of their sole purpose is to generate bad will against Wizards of the Coast. You know who I'm talking about. You know who you are. I think that a lot of people try to generate drama clicks, or just clicks in general. They use clickbait. Every video they make is critical of Wizards, and oh my god, what did they do this time? And that really helps paint the public perception too, on top of all the social media and the fact that people are playing so much more Magic now on Arena. You've got people on YouTube whose sole mission is to generate bad will for Wizards because it generates clicks for them. Please see through that, by the way. Be objective and see through that sometimes. Just think critically. But anyway, and sometimes thinking critically doesn't mean thinking critically only of, the giant corporation, which you should always think critically of. But you should always, think critically of content creators who have something to gain from, their entire shtick being bad-mouthing the corporation too. Because they're not always intellectually honest either. So just throwing that out there. Just throwing that out there. But anyway, I'm kind of off topic. I told you this video would be slightly more rambly. I apologize. But either way, this set again, just to try to clean up the third part of the video here, like I've done with the other two. Try to be a little bit more succinct. Wizards has to see to it that there are good decks, good answers to existing cards. The future is effectively the upcoming standard. And that standard has to be one in which there are a good number of diverse decks. There need to be some budget options to make everyone happy, or as happy as possible. There need to be like 10 different playable tier 1 or 1.5 decks. And it's a really difficult mark to hit for Wizards. I don't envy them having to hit that mark, but that is the position that not only have they put themselves in, but just, the public perception generated by their decisions in the last 2 years. They have put themselves into this corner. And it's a difficult one to fight out of, but it's one they absolutely must. Or this set being considered a failure will not only turn a lot of people away from the game even more than it has in the last 2 years, but it's going to look really, really bad on their financials if they put all of their eggs into the Arena basket. They've coded it into Mac. They've coded it onto mobile, and no one wants to play it. That would be bad. So again, these are the lessons that I think Wizards has to learn in order to make sure that doesn't happen. Because again, one way or the other, Magic isn't dying. This game's going to exist for a while. But in this brave new world, right, I'm not sure when we're going to actually be able to do events in real life anymore, because of the Coco. So I don't blame Wizards for putting all their eggs in the Arena basket. I really don't. It makes the most common sense. It makes sense right now to do that. But then again, if they've also got the advantage of it being effectively a free game, but still, if Standard and Historic aren't fun formats, and if they're not dynamic formats that change when new sets come out, and again, I want to make this point too, I think that there's a place in new formats for old decks, because not everyone has all the wild cards, not everyone has all the money to order new cards in the world, so I like it. In some, there's an angle at which I like it. When a new set comes out and old decks are still viable. Because again, not everyone has all the money in the world to play brand new cards as soon as a new set comes out. So old decks have a place in a new format. But, if the perception is that the only decks in this format are decks that we've already known about for a year at this point, I think that's real. That is going to hurt. That's going to hurt a lot. Not just the player base, but Wizards in general. It's going to hurt quite a bit. And in that way, I think this is one of the most important sets in the history of Magic. Again, just with more people playing than ever, more people on Arena, more people on Mac playing it. You're going to have a bunch of people playing it on mobile when that happens. You just got more people playing the game than ever, and you cannot afford with, as well as your game is doing. A lot of people are saying the Magic is rock bottom right now. I see this take a lot from I think bad faith actors, but a lot of people want to say the Magic is on its way out, or that it's not doing so well, or that its bad decisions of the last 2 years have driven a lot of people out of the game. That is just objectively, in some ways it's true. People have left the game. I've made that point myself. But it's also objectively true that there's more people playing Magic now than there ever have been. Just because of all the different avenues and ease of playing it that you now have. So you can't afford to screw it up. Wizards, you can't. And I hope you didn't. Again, the set looks powered down to me, which is probably what Standard needed, but you also had the problem of a bunch of extremely overpowered cards being left over from the last Standard. I hope you address these problems, because if you didn't, you're going to have issues. Magic's still going to be here 5-10 years from now. It's still going to be here. Your game's not going to die. I'm still going to be playing it. I can pretty much promise you that. So are a lot of other people. But you can't afford to lose all the people that you just got. And you can't afford to lose a bunch of people that have been playing for 25 years because this or that decision was the last straw. So you got to nail this set, not in an enviable position, right? You got to nail this set, and you got to nail it right. And from what I've seen, I'm not sure you've done that. But that is a conversation for a later date. As of now, I guess I've pretty much said all the things I wanted to say in this video, although I still don't feel like I got it all out correctly. I feel like there's something in here that either is going to get spun, or maybe I didn't say it right, or I left it out the wrong. Right, just know that I'm speaking 100% in good faith in this video. Just know that. But if you do take issue with anything I say, or if you want to add to anything that I've said, maybe you think there was a huge thing that should have been in this video that I somehow missed, get down there in the comment section. Let me know how you felt about the takes, what Wizards needs to do with this set in order for it to be successful, and whether or not the premise is even correct, right? Is this set as important as I'm gauging it right now? Just get down there and let me know, and then do all the other stuff, right? Subscribe to the channel because we do have sleepers, we have top 25, we have deck techs, all that coming up very soon. Like in the next week, we'll have all those videos up. So sub to the channel. It's completely free to sub on YouTube. Doesn't hurt you at all. But if you did want to spend some dough, just $1 a month to support me on Patreon, and there you can vote on like what content you see here on the channel. You can vote on the first deck techs of the season even, and those first polls are going to be out in like a couple of days. So link in the description. Get over to the Patreon. Check that out. And if you want to see me play Magic on Twitch, especially when this new set comes out. Haven't been on Twitch as much in the last couple of weeks. It's mostly because of spoiler season. But when this new set comes out, I'm going to be on Twitch like all the time. So go follow me on Twitch. Again, it's free to follow on Twitch. Link in the description. Or go to twitch.tv/SBMTGDev. But that's pretty much all I got for this one. I'm sorry there weren't a lot of cats or jokes or strategy or whatever. Whatever you like in this video. But I do hope that you enjoyed it. It's a different kind of video for me that I don't make very often. But I might try to make more often. Just kind of rambly thoughts on things. All depends on how much you like this one. But just let me know any thoughts that you have on my thoughts, and just how Wizards has to get this right. And I will catch you cats later. I am Dub from The Place. Thanks for watching, my Wizards. Spread love and be kind.